Hey, what's up, guys? I'm gonna talk about the bottoming process here for crypto. As you guys know, I've been believing that this is creating a bottom in here and that we should see a retracement back to the upside here. Now, as far as retracement levels go, I could just pull a quick fib. I mean, anywhere between $2.40 up to $3.50. So I would just say between that $2 and $3 area at least. That's what we want to see for a retracement. Now, how do we get there? Well, I think there's a few ideas we should be looking at. I'm going to present sort of a brand new idea now that the time has gone by. I feel a little bit more comfortable presenting this idea. Again, if we look at the bull market support band, we're right underneath it, right? I feel like we're going to break above it and we're going to start flagging out. But we could also, remember, we could also be creating a base in here. Now the base is a little bit small, so maybe we get a little bit of a bigger base, and you guys know about the oscillation in here. So what I'm going to talk about today is our old buddy, our old friend, our old pal, Mr. Wyckoff Accumulation. You guys know all about this, the OGs who've been following this channel for a while. I mean, we've talked about Wyckoff a lot in here, right? When we were in this area, this was a Wyckoff Accumulation event. When I first started my channel way down here, because I felt things were going to get exciting, we also had a Wyckoff accumulation right in here. So you had that first test, came down, came back up. You had this spring phase. We grabbed that liquidity, and we were talking about it all through here. And that was a year ago, almost, right? And yeah, so from there, and then again, this whole base was also a wonky looking Wyckoff, but it was Wyckoff nonetheless. So what we could be seeing today is another Wyckoff accumulation schematic, and this is a really, really, really good thing because it just gives more confluence and conviction of the whole bottoming process, right? Because as you know, we've been looking at the TD sequential on the 2-week chart, right? And we have a very rare buy signal here on theta, right? It takes time. We had it back in sort of middle August here, and we had a perfected sort of 9 buy, and now we're, again, building a base, consolidating, right? So this is another reason why I think a retracement is coming. And then also we're back testing this previous base down in here, right? So here was our base right in here, right? We broke out of the base and then we came all the way back down. Now we're back testing the base, right? So that's that's another reason. So I'm not going to get into all of those other ones, but what I really want to talk about today is this potential Wyckoff structure. So let's go to the appropriate time frame here, and let's see if we can figure out what's actually happening. So let me take this off. There we go. And remember, with Wyckoff, there's 2 different schematics that could occur, right? So where I think we're at right now is in phase B, right? So let me just put a little bit of an arrow here. So you can see, right, we're coming down, right? You have that first automatic retest, which is right here, right? Then you come down for a secondary test. It did make a lower low, right? But ultimately we came up and then we came down in secondary test in phase B, which is right here. And then what happens is you come up back towards the resistance without necessarily breaking the high. That's exactly what we did. We came up to the resistance without breaking the high. But even if we did, it's still okay. So what happens here after that is we start to create this little creek area. We start to create this little, sort of roundabout in here. and then eventually we break out, we consolidate, and we start ripping to the upside. So to give you an idea of what that could look like, is we start coming on down here, playing around a little bit, shooting up, breaking above this line, sort of back testing it a little bit, right, and then continuing higher. So as it stands right now, that is probably one of my favorite ideas. Now, the main idea is getting a retracement. Now, and the route that we take to get to that retracement, that's always kind of difficult to gauge, right? Because it can happen a lot of different ways. But what I'm seeing now is kind of giving me some evidence here that we could see a potential Wyckoff, right? And then we also could see, right, this ascending triangle type of pattern, right, where we're sort of consolidating in this triangle and then we break out. It could even be sort of an inverse head and shoulders pattern in here. I mean, there's a lot of different type of situations that could occur, but overall, we should be looking for any of them really, and one of the best ones is Wyckoff. So this is the other schematic, and remember, Wyckoff, this is not just for theta, but I'm talking about the whole market. Basically all of the coins that look like this, like Matic, I mean, there's all of them, right? I mean, all the altcoins like QNT, maybe Engine, Total 3, right? XRP's in a little bit of a different situation. We'll talk about that. But let's keep it on theta for a minute. So we can see this is a traditional Wyckoff pattern. It's just basically the same thing, right? But instead of having this little roundabout in here and then going, what you do is you actually, you start working your way down, boom, 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 boom. And what you do is you break this support, and we've talked about that too, grabbing liquidity. You come down here, right? And not sure about that low, but definitely these lows. You come down, you break the low, you grab that liquidity, and then bam, you take it up very fast. You consolidate a little bit, right? Just like right here, and then you take off. So that's sort of what I'm looking for. So either talking about the two Wyckoff scenarios, either we're going to come down like this and sort of roundabout and then shoot off, or we get a little bit of a deeper, faster sort of hit to the low where it takes out this liquidity, it soaks it up, right, and then it takes off, right? So basically, let me just draw it here. You got this, let's do there we go. So we got sort of this move here, right? We got that move there. And then we come on down, we come on down. We come back up without taking out the high. Come back up without taking out the high. And then what's next? We got to come down and round out, or even soak that liquidity. So come around, round out, soak that liquidity, and then shoot off. So that's what it's going to look like, guys. That's sort of how I believe it could, how it can look over the next several weeks, right? So I've been calling for a correction here soon. I mean, it looks like, we're back at resistance. So I said, don't be surprised that we have to come back down sort of in this zone here around $1.15, $1.20 area, right? So that's just the Wyckoff look. Now, it doesn't have to be that, right? It could be a little bit different. For example, the other idea that I was looking at here is we have the bull market support band, right? So it's coming down, right? And then what we do is similar to Wyckoff a little bit, but instead of having to like round out in here, instead of that, basically we just sort of flag out a little bit more, right? So we basically have one wave, and now we're flagging out for wave two. We break out, we break above the bull market support band, we come all the way up to about $1.90, and then we start flagging out into the bull market support band, holding that support, and then continuing higher towards those retracement levels. So that's the other sort of idea that I've been looking at for a retracement, because I'm trying to get a feel like, okay, if we're doing a bottoming structure and we should be looking forward to a retracement, then what are sort of some of the possibilities that we can find, right? And there's only so many. So again, you know, this could be, we come down, we had a bottom, we had a double bottom, right? And now this is that first leg. Now we're flagging out for wave 2. We break out, so it's like a 1-2, 1-2, right? We break out and then we start flagging out and then eventually getting back into those retracement levels. Because if you look here, there's not a lot of price action there, right? So getting up to this resistance, right, and then coming back down and then back testing the bottom of it, sort of filling in that volume profile, right, of the, you know, because think of it like a gap or like an air pocket. There's not a lot of trading activity. The volume profile isn't there, right? So like this, you slice right up and you go right through it, and then as you break it down, you slice right through it. So once we break this area around, I'd say like $1.50, $1.60, we should have a clear shot up to about $1.91. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So this is the bullish idea. This is the bullish scenario. This is not financial advice. I could be totally wrong. We could continue going down, although it's not likely. I mean, we have a completed sort of crashing structure here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have 5, and then 6 rolls back into wave 4 of this wave here, and then we roll down for 7. That's usually how it bottoms, right? And then from there, a few things can happen. Either we oscillate like this, we build a base, and then we break out later on. Or what we do is we sort of have this double bottom, we break out in a big way, but then we flag out later on, which takes a lot of time. So we're either going to spend a lot of time down here, or we're going to break out rather quickly and then flag out and spend a lot of time flagging out. You see what I mean? So the time is going to be spent somewhere, because price corrects through price and through time. So if I had to guess, which is not guessing, it's all about probabilities, but if I had to assume what's more probable, I would imagine we get some bit of a pullback here and we start flagging out a little bit. So yes, we are bullishly consolidating, like in the title of the previous video. This is bullish consolidation, right? But we are at the top of the range, so we have to be very cautious right in here, right? So if we're ranging, then the next move should be down, right? If this is not gonna come down, then we could see, like, let's go to the 4-hour here, or even the 2-hour chart. Let me get rid of, actually, let me just get rid of that. Okay. So there's your resistance. What we could see is sort of like an ABC. So we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an A. And then we have this 3-wave move up like that. That's a B. So maybe this is a 1, 2, 1, 2. Maybe we're about to get a 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to get an A, B, C, this 3-wave shape, and then sort of test this lower support and then go up later on, right? So then when we zoom out on that, how does that look? Well, that's just a little bit of a flag here, right? That's a little bit of a flag, or you know, a correction. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's wave 1. We have an ABC. That's wave 2, and then we continue rocking it to the upside in that wave 3, right? That's one way it could go down. The other way is that this becomes a little bit more complex. So, for example, if this is a 3-wave move down, we could then get 3 back up and then get 3 back down later on. It turns into a bigger, more complex correction. And if that's the case, then we could see it or treat it as Wyckoff from there, right there. So you see how you come down, you have this sort of, this ascending trend, right? And then you have this horizontal resistance, what we know as an ascending triangle, right? So something like that. So it could be a simple ABC, continue higher, or it could be a complex ABC, continue higher, or if it wants to do the first Wyckoff schematic, it could actually come all the way down, but it has to go fast, really fast. It takes this liquidity, and then it shoots back up in the spring phase, right? So usually if we get something like that, it would be some kind of event that would sort of trigger it, right? Maybe a big hit to the stock market, or maybe the dollar pumping, or what have you. But basically that's what we're looking for, because this is crypto. I mean, this is our golden ticket to future success, right? We're not going to be a Hollywood movie star. We're not going to be a famous musician. We're not going to be, I mean, maybe you might. I'm just speaking for myself here, but I would say the majority of the people, they don't have a fancy college degree that's earning them a lot of money. And even if they are, that's great. But don't you want to put your money to work, right? I mean, what else is your money going to do? Sit in the bank, do nothing. At least with crypto, right? Yes, it goes up. Yes, it goes down. But over time, it's going to reward you more than you can ever imagine, especially if you continue to dollar cost average, right? Just keep working your job, keep buying crypto. That's the only way it's going to work, right? So obviously, trading as well, not just hodling, but then you got to be extra careful when you're doing that. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I'm looking at it here, for theta, right? I mean, look, this is on linear scale, but we did break above it on linear, and then when I put it to log scale, which is more conservative, we broke above the downward resistance line, right? So that's the first step, right? So what we could see is a retest of that line. So you break, hook, go. I mean, that's typically how you want to see it, right? So yeah, this is a very bullish sort of situation here. But in the meantime, in the short term, we could see a little bit of downside here, right? We got this nice long leg. Let's flag out a little bit, right? Or like the Wyckoff example, we can kind of make a little bit of a, kind of like a cup, and then a little bit of a handle in here, right? So yeah, things are looking very positive. And then once it gets all sorted out, right? So let me just do this real quick. So the election is actually what, November 3rd, somewhere in here. I'll just put it right there. So November 4th, right? So maybe we start coming down here. If this is the Wyckoff scenario, we start coming down, and then we start playing up here. Then we have the election, and then we start billowing out, and then boom, Trump wins. Let's go, right? Because everybody's like, okay, Gary Gensler's gone, right? We're gonna get regulation. We got a pro-crypto, an actual pro-crypto president who's actually invested in it, right? I mean, their sons are taking their own money and putting it towards crypto. Now, why would they do that if they know they're going to be faced with regulatory scrutiny coming up, right? They know it's going to be smooth because it's all about putting the right people in the positions to make it happen. And the people in the positions right now are who? Bought and paid for by the special interests, the lobbyists, the central banks. What do the central banks want? They don't want DeFi. They don't want decentralized finance. They don't want crypto. They might act like they do. They might say they do, but they really don't, because it's a threat to what they're doing, right? So what they're trying to do is obviously their CBDC and other things like that, while pretending that Bitcoin is cool, when in reality they can't stand it. So otherwise, if they really, really, really loved it, how come we don't have regulations? How come I can't go to Walmart and buy a loaf of bread with Bitcoin? I can't do that. Why? Because they don't want that. They don't want that to happen. But it's eventually going to happen, I believe. So, and remember, Trump also talked about a level playing field, talked about currency devaluations, so things like that. And how do you have a level playing field? A blockchain. Blockchains level the playing field, not just with money, finance, things like that, but also you can look at it like through voting and stuff, right? Are many different applications for blockchain. So, but the primary one being money, payments, stuff like that, which is why we're all here, which is why you're watching, because you've taken an interest in crypto, because you know exactly how powerful it actually is and how significant it can change your life, especially so many people out there cannot see it. And I feel kind of bad for the people who sort of, they go to their job, they pay into their 401k, they know about crypto, they hear about crypto, but they're not involved like me and you are. They're not living, sleeping, breathing. They're not living it like we are, right? And the reason why is because maybe they don't have, they possibly see the potential, but they know it's very risky. But the way I look at it is, how old is crypto? It's not that old. And what are the utilities? We're so early, it's ridiculous, right? So those people will eventually come around, right? Just like how when we had this big pump here, there was a lot of people Googling crypto. There was a lot of people interested in here, right? So that's, all those people are going to return. But the difference between us and them is that we're focusing here on the bottom, right? Because we know we're gearing up for a higher move. What happens is, right, I'll just give you a little play-by-play here, is we'll create this Wyckoff, we'll break out, they'll talk about it on the news a little bit, blah, 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 right? A few people will jump on, but then what happens is we break out, right? And once we break out, then all of a sudden you have a lot more people saying, okay, where do I get this crypto, what, blah, 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 blah. But you should have been paying attention down here. Now all of a sudden we're up here, now you're paying a premium. You see what I mean? So, when things are boring, when things are depressing, when things are sideways, when nothing's happening, when it just seems like it's dead, that's when you have to pay attention. Because, when I go back, let's go to this other theta chart here. If I can find it real quick. There we go. So if we go back sort of to, this area back over here, right when we had C19, right? We came up in a very powerful wave one, but then what did we do? We started, trending sideways a little bit in here, right? And nobody was really paying attention. But then as we started accelerating, more and more and more people got involved, right? And then we really started taking off, right? And then that's when, look at this. It just keeps going, right? So it just goes to show that if we were paying attention down here, right? Because every move starts with a sideways move. So actually, let me take sort of this bars pattern here, and I'm not using it sort of as a fractal, but more so as an example of what we can expect, right? Sort of in this bottoming process. And I'm gonna have to make it bigger because the oscillations are bigger. So there we go. And it actually looks pretty dang decent as a fractal here, right? So you can see the fractal, right? The bottoming structure has sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sideways, go. Okay? And that's exactly what Wyckoff is, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're coming down for 5. Let's go sideways and then blast off, right? So that's our base in here. And during this base, nobody's paying attention because it's boring, right? We don't hear it on the news. You know, Elon's not tweeting about Dogecoin, so nobody's interested anymore, right? But that's when we should be. So anyways, but now that I look at this fractal, I actually like it a lot. You know, I mean, this fractal, it was kind of like a, let's just see what it looks like as an illustration. But now that I put it on there, I mean, this sucker looks pretty nice. It looks like, you know, something we can expect here, right? Maybe we just go sideways for a little while. So that's all I have to say for the price of theta. And then for Bitcoin, you know, Bitcoin's sort of making some bearish diverge. Well, not really. A little bit. Let me see. Let's go to the daily. I mean, the daily chart, we got some dojis here. We're sort of hanging on here. We're gonna have to look at the smaller time frame. Let's go to the 4-hour. So the good thing about Bitcoin is sort of the RSI is cooled off a lot, which is good. We also have, you know, if this RSI comes down a little bit more, we could see some hidden bullish divergence. So, for example, if here's our low here, right, which correlates with this low. So if we keep going up, see how the price is trending higher, right? But the RSI is kind of falling. So if we get lower here, we could have RSIs being neutral, but the price being up. That's hidden bullish divergence, right? So we could see that's often associated probably with like running corrections, running flats, sort of bottlenecking type of behavior. But we do got 3 drives to the high. We got 1, 2, 3 drives to the high. We sort of failed, so we kind of look at it as like a bear flag in here. So these things can bottleneck and go higher, or they can come up and break down. It's very, you know, you have to, unless you're going minute by minute by minute or looking at the 5-minute chart, you're not going to really get the edge on what this is going to do. A lot of times when you bottom here and you fly up and then you start bottlenecking, it looks like it's creating bearish divergence. It looks like it's going to fall, but what happens is you come up and you spike the high and then you flag out like this, right? So for example, like if I go to Bitcoin back, let's see here, look at all in here. You see that, right? You see this type of behavior, right? Where it sort of looked like it was trending higher. We don't really know what's going on. It breaks out. It says, okay, let's go long, and then we come back down. And then it's like, okay, well, what was that? And then we go back up, and then we come down, and we go back up, we come down, we go back up, we come down. You see what I mean? So it's kind of like you just have to let it play out. But ultimately, the whole move was a bullish move, right? It was sort of this that type of pattern where we sort of fly higher. And there's another example too, if I can find it back. I mean, they're all over if you know where to look. Sort of right here. Yeah, this is the one right here. So you can see, and this is kind of like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just take a fractal and let's overlay it and see if it makes sense, right? So, you know, you kind of bottom out here. You have like a 1, 2, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're sort of consolidating in here as you're slightly breaking this high, right? So here we go. Here's the fractal here, right? And actually, now that I look at it, it actually looks pretty decent. Look at this. I mean, guys, look at that. It's a little bit different on this first little wave here, but I really like sort of the way it's lining up. It's definitely a contender here for a fractal. right? So that's kind of what happens, right? When and again, when you come up to a resistance and then you start channeling up into the resistance as you're cupping in, cupping in, cupping in. That's a good indicator that we can break out, right? So if that's the case, then we might not need the Wyckoff sort of situation. Like I was saying before, right? Even like XRP kind of already is doing that. Looks like it needs like a three-way move down and then continue higher. So we might have sort of like a running correction. Now, when we look at total 3, same thing as theta here, right? If it was going to be Wyckoff, we would come down like this and then go, right? So we're right at resistance. We start trending down a little bit, hold support right in here, play around in here, go sideways a little bit, consolidate, continue, right? Something like that. But if Bitcoin breaks out, we could see, let's zoom out, we could see a push back up to this area up here, around like $650 billion area, right? And then from there, so from there it would look very three-wave-ish. This would look like a three-wave move. You see what I mean? So from there, that's when we would sort of flag out, right? And then hopefully continue higher from there. But the risk is, it's kind of better that we do fall and we make that little cup. Because if we go up, you've got to always think ahead, right? If we go up, we're going to have this three-wave looking shape, which is going to be kind of bearish looking. So we kind of want the price to cool down. We want the price to come down. We want the oscillators to reset. We want the Wyckoff look, because that's going to give us a better look. And then it also creates a bigger base. If we just go up now, it's going to look three-wave-ish. It's going to look a little bit extended, and we're going to have a bigger correction later on. You see what I mean? So it's always be careful what you wish for in certain situations like that. But going back to Bitcoin, yeah, I mean, this fractal could be a contender here. And maybe we get back up to this zone, right? A little bit higher, right? We sort of consolidate, we push the high, then we start flagging out in here. Holding support in the bull market support band, building a base, continuing. Something like that. That would be nice to see. So, yeah, let me take a look at that again. Yeah, that fractal, ignoring all the squiggles, that fractal looks pretty decent. So, again, it's not, I wouldn't bet the farm on it, not even close, but it's something to suggest that this can go higher. Now, if it's not, then, right, we got the divergence here. What do we expect now? Well, if this is 3 down and this is 3 up, then we should get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, maybe like an expanded flat. So there's your three-wave move there. Maybe we need a bigger three-wave move, maybe back down to the bottom of this bull market support band and then continue higher. So I could see something like that. Or if this is 3, we can get 3 up and then 3 down. So it can be a 3, 3, 3. It could be an even bigger sort of Wyckoff that pushes us into mid-October, right? Which is not that far away when you think about it, right? When I go to the 4-hour chart, it looks like a decent correction, right? And we would just be, flagging out in here before going higher. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. Either now, but we have to watch this range. Now, if we break out, then, obviously we can rule out what it's not. But if we start coming down here, which would probably be better if we actually think about it. But like when you look at some coins like XRP, they don't really, you see, like, for example, XRP, I guess we could go down back to the bull market support band, right? We have 3 down. This is 3 up. maybe we get 1, 2, 3 back down like this, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, right? So we have 3 down, 3 up, 5. So this could be like that expanded flat like we just talked about, right? And then go higher, and that would look very beautiful, right? We got a 3-wave move there, we got a 3-wave move there, we got a 3. So you have all of these impulse, 3-way pullback, impulse, 3-way pullback, impulse, 3-way pullback. I mean, that is the most bullish thing you can ask for, right? A 1-2-1-2 setup, and we're just kind of consolidating into this apex before a move's going to be really pronounced, and I think that's going to be to the upside. So anyways, that'll do it for this video. I wanted to keep it a little bit shorter today. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you can hit that like, I'd really appreciate it. And if you want the shorter videos, let me know. I'll try to, I'm still growing as an individual, as a channel, as somebody who wants to share what I know to everyone, and how I go about looking at things. But I know, we only have so much time in the day, right? So I want to try to keep it. Sometimes it needs to be long, sometimes it needs to be short. So anyway, let me know. As far as anything else, like theta fuel goes, we could have a Wyckoff situation here too, right? So look out for something like that. And then, like, for example, ADA, same thing, right? You could have this Wyckoff situation like that, where we come down, we make a little bit of a cup, we play, and we continue to go higher, right? Even Filecoin, same exact thing with Filecoin, right? Maybe we come down and then we go like that, or it could be a spring and then go, right? So basically, that's kind of what we're looking for if it's going to be the Wyckoff situation. Now, if Bitcoin wants to break out, some of these coins, they need a little bit higher of a push, right? It could be that, some of them need to push higher. Like, let's look at Ethereum Classic here, right? If we push a little bit higher and then sort of round out in here. So we'll see how it progresses, but I'll leave you with that, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.